Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's meeting of council, being held on Tuesday, 20th of June, 2023. To start the official proceedings, I would like to acknowledge that we are meeting on Jarrah country, which the members and elders of the Jarrah community and elders have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old rituals of age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation, and renewal. They acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. Item 1, we have all councillors present tonight. Item 2, there are no apologies and no leaves of absence. Sorry, we have all councillors present as well as our executive team and some staff members as well. Down to item 3, councillors, are there any declarations of interest or conflicts of interest? Fantastic. Item 4, confirmation of minutes. And 4.1, meeting of council, 16th of May, 2023. Councillors, do I have a motion? Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I move that the council confirms the minutes of the meeting of the Mount Alexander Shire Council held on the 16th of May 2023.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor McClure, all in favour? Motion carried. Item 5, acknowledgements. And while it says nil, we have a couple of late additions. So the first one is a bit of a ballet for Dallas Keogh Franklin. We were all deeply saddened to hear about the death of Dallas Keogh Franklin on Saturday, 27th of May. Dallas was a local 17-year-old who attended Castlemaine Secondary College. He played under-18s football for Castlemaine Football and Netball Club, and he played cricket for Harcourt Cricket Club. I'm sure that there is so much more to know about Dallas than just these things, just as I know that his sudden death affected many people in our community, and it's affecting many people still. On behalf of myself, my fellow councillors, and all of us at Mount Alexander Shire Council, I convey our great sorrow at the loss of Dallas and send our heartfelt condolences to his family, friends, teammates, and all who are grieving him. We are only a relatively small community here in Castlemaine and the Shire, but we are incredibly connected and incredibly good at coming together to support and care for each other when we need to. So even though my heart is still hurting for Dallas and all those grieving his loss, I've witnessed such kindness, connection, and strength occurring in the wake of his tragic loss, and know that there is plenty more to come. Please continue to be kind to each other and look after each other, and please reach out for help if you need it. You do not need to carry grief alone. Talking to someone, whether a friend or family member or a professional, can really help. LA, Dallas. Also in acknowledgements, I would like to acknowledge a couple of, a couple of things to celebrate in the last week. So every year, the State Government Department Sustainability Victoria has its Resource Smart School Awards. And these are for schools who are demonstrating through different ways in which their schools, their curriculum, their gardens and their buildings and their students are working towards sustainability. This year, our Shire had 2 winning schools, which is pretty impressive. Firstly, Castlemaine Steiner School and Kindergarten, which won the Campus Infrastructure and Operations School of the Year. This is an award for celebrating the school that best demonstrates their commitment to environmental sustainability. And they've been doing a lot of great work out there to really improve their grounds, especially, and their buildings to make it more sustainable. The second winner was Chewton Primary School, who won for the Curriculum Leadership School of the Year. And their award was for connecting with First Nations people to learn about sustainability practices. So I think that's really impressive that 2 primary schools in our little Shire have taken out these state awards, along with, Winters Flat the previous year and St Mary's a couple of years before that. So we know that our young people in their schools are really putting their best feet forward and leading by example, really, which is really impressive. On to item 6, which is public time. We have no submitted questions. I will ask if there are any questions from the gallery. There is not, so we will move forward with our public time. At item 7, there is petitions and letters, but there are nil. On to item 8, committee reports. 8.1, Audit and Risk Committee meeting minutes, 24th of March and 26th of May 2023. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Driscoll.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. These are confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting 2023, of which I'm on, which were held on the 24th of March and the 26th of March 2023. They're confidential minutes. Now, I'd like to move that the council notes the confirmed minutes of the Audit and Risk Committee meeting held on the 24th March 23 and 26th May 23.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councillor Maltby. All in favour? Motion carried. On to item 8.2, North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation Board reports. Could I have someone introduce this item, please?
Thanks, sir. These are the minutes of the North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation Board, the meeting held on 24th of March 2023, and the Castlemaine Library Quarterly Report, January to March. And I'll move that the council notes the minutes, North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation Board meeting held on the 24th of March, and the Castlemaine Library Quarterly Report, January, March 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Maltby. Do I have a second? Councillor McClure. And all in favour? Motion carried. We are at item 9, which is officer reports, 9.1 economy, and 9.1.1 adoption of the 2023-2024 budget. Councillor Henderson, would you like to introduce this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Having prepared and publicly displayed the proposed budget for 2023-2024 and having received and further submissions and considered all, the Council is now able to consider the formal adoption of the budget for 2023-2024.
We are ready. Do I have a motion, Councillor Henderson?
Certainly, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed. I'll bear from reading it all out.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Councillor Corley, thank you. Any opposition? Councillor Henderson, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Certainly, Mayor. Thank you. I think all councils are absolutely proud of this budget as the executive and the senior staff and that all staff who have inputs, and as well as the many members of the public who have told us what they think should go in the budget. The whole process, to my mind, has been such an improvement on what was done even 5 or 6 years ago. It was really proud of the council by taking our budget planning out to the public at an early time and saying what we think. The shared page has been an excellent way of doing that. So I think we had over 113 submissions, 117 submissions in the early stages. Well, before the final budget was formed, we had an important stuff like the roads and the drainage and the building. That's what we knew. There was lots of stuff that would or might not be done. So we took in all those on board, and they were all synthesised and reported back to us by our financial staff, and council considered that and put together a draft budget, which included quite a few items that were based on public submissions, large and small. And then we took that draft budget, we dropped the draft budget back in April, and that went out for further submissions. And lo and behold, we had another 43 submissions. So back in the day, I seem to remember we got 6 or 7 altogether. We thought, wow, that's pretty good. So this is truly impressive. This is really a big advantage. People have had the opportunity to say. And as a result of the second round of submissions, and people come to speak to us to support their submissions, we were able to include allocations to business North Alexandra, the Modern Ink, the Print Festival, and also to the customer tax space. We're very pleased that we're able to support by one of the executive management of corporate services, Carolyn Ross, to find out extra money that she has just put aside in case council wanted to feel supported by the commission. So it's been such a well managed budget process. I've been very happy. We will note that we are seeing the 3.5% rate increase permitted by the state government's rate cap, while also noting that in fact inflation has been reported by the Reserve Bank as of 31st of March at 7% for the preceding 12-month period. And this is obviously twice as much in the rates up. So we're expecting that our costs are certainly going well ahead of our increase in income, but we'll as ever manage to cut our cloth with our budget. And I'm sure our wonderful staff will be able to do what the money is allocated in every case. Yes. Oh, and also we should note the farm rate is now set at the standard 80% of all properties classified as farm. And I sort of commend my fellow councillor, Councillor Tony Cordy, for running a long campaign to support farmers in what is pretty difficult business and is well overcharged for owning so much land. Unfortunately, that's the only way council can earn money, is to charge by the value of land, and so farmers take a hit for it. So they're getting that differential rate to try and compensate in some way. And of course, those residential people who are farmers will be paying the extra to compensate. But I think we'll all be happy with that, more or less. So, councillors, I commend this budget to you, and I be supporting council budget.
Thank you, Councillor Henderson. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks for that, Mayor. Yes, look, it's a fantastic budget. I was a bit concerned, and I didn't have the numbers to get that increase reduced along the journey, but I think the budget is a great effort, and I'd certainly like to commend particularly Director Knight's team and the finance team for the way that they've worked with the council to put this together, and also all of the other staff that have contributed. It's a fantastic budget, and I think it's really great when we've been approached by community groups in our when the budget's gone out to comment, that we're in a position where we have been able to find additional funds to support some very worthy things. One of the things that I am a bit concerned about with the budget is that what we're seeing happening is that the valuers tell us that farm values are going up more than residential values. So it seems like the farmers are going to get slugged in this budget, and it's not council's fault, but it's the valuations rates are based on property valuations, and so it is a concern for our primary producers, and look, I've argued very strongly for over the years for farmers to get a decent go, but it seems like valuations are working against us, and I'm sure those in the farming sector understand that. But apart from that, it's a wonderful budget, and happy to support it. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Cordy. Councillor Maltby.
Thanks, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Cordy. It's a very good budget. There's been a lot of work done to get it to where it is. And as Councillor Henderson said, the Castlemaine Safe Place and Fringe Festival are important things that have been added. Would thing the temporary change rooms at both Campbell Creek and Camp Reserve, because we all know that issue, and it's not going to be fixed in 5 years. So if I had any sadness, it was that there isn't a hard rubbish collection involved in this year's budget, but I'm still working on it. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. First, I just want to thank Director Knight and the finance team and fellow councillors. It's always a difficult time. A lot of work goes involved and a lot of negotiation. And also want to say to people who put in budget, the public in budget submissions, that many were taken into consideration and some were required. So for next year, I think it's really important to do check councils to what their thoughts are, because we do consider that we try and leave a little bit of funds available for such things. Just a couple of things I want to point out in the budget is first, we have sufficient cash to meet our upcoming obligations, which in my opinion is always a good thing. We have no proposed borrowings, and we have an operating surplus of 4.71 million, which is proposed in the budget. Hopefully it'll work out that way, but as what many people know, sometimes it doesn't, but those 3 points there are important. And once again, I want to thank everybody for considering the budget and agreeing on the budget in a respectful way. Thank you.
Councillor. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. I think a lot has been said. I was going to say, but from the start, obviously acknowledge Lisa and the team putting together budgets. One of these things, they start early, they go on for long. They probably sit out there thinking that we're done in an afternoon. It's a 6 to 9 month process. A lot of effort is put in, and obviously the mentioning and account of the community consultation as well. To me, I sort of share Tony's view on the 3.5%. I would have liked to see it a lot lower, even though it is low in inflation, it is the maximum amount allowed by the Victorian government. So that it concerns me. So if people out there feel the impact of that, I would obviously encourage them to contact council. We do have a hardship policy, but the problem is that everything just keeps going up. Problem the council faces with that obviously is inflation 7%, costs keep going up, so it doesn't mean that at some point we're going to have less money to do more, and community obviously increasing demands. So at some point, somehow difficult decisions can have to be made. Having said that, there's obviously lots of good things in it, and I think Max mentioned the operating surplus, but there is an underlying deficit of 1.8 million. No new borrowings, as Max mentioned, and Gilbert Hall, obviously, for me, is funded, so that's a good thing. Christine had talked about and mentioned the community consultation. I think just about everyone who come and submitted and spoke has got something, or council will be looking at it. So for me, I don't like rising rates. I don't think anyone does, but it is what it is. It's an overall budget, and I really want to thank my fellow councillors in the debate. It was done in an incredible manner. Yeah, let me go there again.
Councillor McClure, would you like to speak?
I probably should say something, but first of all, congratulate Director Knight and the team for the direct on the budget. It has been a good process to go through again. The council, so experienced, and I'm pleased to see a couple of things like the Camp Reserve, as Bill mentioned, the Campbell Creek Recreation Reserve, get some funding to start some upgrades down there, but well overdue. The one point that I do understand the issue about 3.5% rate cap, but one of the big items that council does is construction, and the increases in prices in the construction industry, which I'm involved in, I know, far more than 20%. They are in some instances as high as 30%. So it's going to be council doing a lot less work for the same amount of money. So it's all right to say we've got a cap rate of 3.5%, but we're losing. We're going backwards in terms of inflation, also going backwards in terms of the amount of work we can get done for the time. So we have got to keep in mind that council should try and keep in line with inflation as best as we can, and understanding that we have a cap. And I'm concerned that in some time in the near future, that council may have to go down the path of looking at a variation in the rate cap, because otherwise we can't continue going backwards, in my view, and we can't continue to provide the facilities and the level of construction that people expect out there in the community. But apart from that, I'm extremely pleased to support the budget. It's a good budget, and thank you to all those involved who have had a part in putting it all together.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henderson, can you have another go at if you would like?
I think everyone said, no, it's great. It's really good stuff to Barry and Director Lawrence. And also, of course, Director here, who's team had an awful lot of input into the budget, tapping right tonight on the show saying, don't forget this, or haven't got it. So yeah, it's a huge effort for the CEO, making comments with people with appropriate note. No, this is great. Thank you.
All right, I will then put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Fantastic. And with that, we have adopted the 2023-2024 budget. And on the back of everyone else, I'll also just express my thanks to firstly Director Knight and Carolyn Ross, Madeline Redmond and Robin Sterling, who really led in the finance department. But really, as everyone has said, it is a collaborative thing, putting this budget together. It's not only Director Knight's team, but also really staff from all over the entire organisation making this work. Also the community, and also right at the very end, us councillors come in and try our very best to make a budget that we think suits the needs of our community based on what we've heard from everyone. It was a hard year. I think we can all agree that going into the process, it was tight and there wasn't a lot of hope at the beginning, but as a lot of you have said, I'm really proud of what we've achieved with this budget. It's not perfect. I think it would be very hard to have a perfect budget when the climate is the way it is at the moment, but we're very proud of what we've achieved. And I hope that the community is able to see how well we demonstrate that we are listening and that we do care. Yeah, so it was really good to be able to say that we have adopted the budget. Well done, everyone. We are moving on to 9.2, community, and 9.2.1, Goldfields Library Corporation Service and Funding Agreement, 2023 to 2025. Councillor Cordy, would you introduce this item, please?
Thanks for that, Mayor. The North Central Regional Library Corporation, commenced in 1996. Member councils include the City of Greater Bendigo in the Shires of Loddon, Macedon Ranges and Mount Alexander, and provide library services to these municipalities. The current service and funding agreement, SAFA 2019 to 2023, attachment 9.2.1.1, is due to expire on 30th of June 2023. It is proposed that a new SFA, attachment 9.2.1.2, which carries over the existing conditions of the current agreement, be entered into for a 12-month period with an option of a further 1-year extension. And I'll go on, and the recommendation is that council I'll move the recommendation that council authorise the CEO to sign the North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation Service and Funding Agreement 2023-2025 for 12 months with the option to extend for an additional 12 months. noting that this agreement carries over the existing conditions of the service funding agreement currently in place. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Gordon. Do I have a second? Councillor McClure. And before we proceed, Director Knight, could I ask you for a point of clarification around what the funding amounts will be for the next 2 financial years, please?
Thank you, Mayor, for that question. So the existing contribution, so just noted from 22-23, so the current financial year is $549,766. So a 3.5% increase will be applied for the first year or the first year of proposal for this agreement. So the 23-24 financial year will be $569,010. The assumption will then be made of a further 3.5% increase for the 24-25 financial year, resulting in $589,000. And sorry, Mayor, if I can just also add, it has also been included in the budget on page 8, but I completely understand the need for clarity around what the council contribution will be for each of those years.
Thank you, Director Knight, for clarifying that. Councillor Cordy, would you like to speak to your motion, please?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, the library service is a wonderful service, and the cooperation between the participants of the North Central Goldfields Regional Library Corporation is really a great initiative. It's worked very well. Down the track, the government, the state government has made some changes. It's not necessarily going to be able to continue on in its present form, but certainly we're happy with the arrangements as they are at this time. And yes, we'll be very happy to report our CEO signing up for the next 12 months with an extension, possible extension of another 12 months. So yeah, I commend this to all councillors. Thank you.
And councillor McClure, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just to support Councillor Porteous comments, it's an important part of the community. Like here in the Shire, it's an important service for the community. I had an opportunity to observe the use of the library over the Jazz Festival on the weekend, and it's actually surprised me that the level of traffic that goes in and out through that door, and the level of use, and all ages right across from young kids through senior citizens. So it's a well-used facility. It's a great facility with the hall, the way it all connects, and the Wi-Fi that people get an opportunity to use. So it is a great service for the Shire, and I fully support the signing of the agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor
I
Anderson?
would just say technically by passing the base budget, we have actually passed the payments of $549,000 for next year because it is in the budget. That's good. And we've got flying blind. And the service area library provides accessible information, resources for recreation, cultural, education, and social development by community. Services provided by government education. Major PM plus of 560, I think. There it is. Yeah. Wonderful resource. It's not, doesn't come cheap, but we certainly get value from them.
Fantastic. Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Driscoll.
Thanks, Mayor. Is a large cost. Hadn't been to the library for a long time. When my kids were little, we used to always go there. I popped in not long ago, and it's still fantastic to look back on memory. The library is a wonderful thing because you can actually change the station and change where you are in life. You can read a book and you can learn things and you keep moving forward. So from that perspective, you haven't got the money to buy the book or whatever resources, you can go in there, you can read a book, and you can teach yourself and move forward. And in my eyes, that's a wonderful thing. So I think it's a fantastic service, and I'm totally for this.
Thank you, councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Cordy, you have a right of reply.
Thanks, Mayor. I think we'll move on, but fantastic job, our library. Thank you.
All right, I will then put the motion. All in favour? And motion carried. And you know, I can never resist getting in and telling everyone how much I love the library. I will point out that we have a 53% of our population are library members, which is, dare I say it, unprecedented. We are a community and a shire that loves the library and I think benefits greatly from us. So, well, as Councillor Cordy said, the way the library operates as an entity may change in the future or will change in the future. We're happy to be continuing our relationship for the next couple of years the way it is. Okay, we are moving on to item 9.3, environment, and item 9.3.1, local law 13, camping on private property. Councillor Maltby, would you introduce this item, please?
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to inform council of the outcomes of the community consultation process and for council to consider the proposed amendment to local law 13, camping on private property, to allow where there is an existing dwelling limited to one tiny house on wheels, caravan, tent, or the like to camp without a permit. In line with Local Government Act 2020, the proposed amendment to Local Law 13 was publicly exhibited for a period of 28 days. And in total, 1,616 submissions were received, which is an amazing result. The feedback was overwhelmingly in favour of the proposed amendment, with 91% of those respondents being in favour. 6% were opposed and 3% were undecided. I'd like to move that council considers the community feedback on the proposed amendment to clause 13, camping on private property of Mount Alexander Shires Council's General Local Law 2020, and 2, adopts the proposed amendment to Council's General Local Law 13, camping on private property, to allow where there is an existing dwelling limited to one tiny house on wheels, caravan, tent, or the like to camp without a permit.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Driscoll, thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak to your motion then?
There's no doubt that there is a major housing crisis, and changing this law to allow this type of accommodation on properties will help assist that. And the community has reacted in that favour. You know, to get 1,600 admissions is a very poignant point. And as we continue with the council, I know we're going to keep looking into the housing crisis. And this is a good start.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. As we all know, I put this motion forward back in July 2022, and I was very thankful with the support of all other councillors. And I thought at that time that it was an easy thing to do, that we could just put 20 houses in them in places, and that would help solve the issue of homelessness, which is, we all know, is a difficult situation. But unfortunately, as Mr. Bumble said, the law is an ass. When the rigid application of the letter of the law is seen to be contrary to common sense. What we have here, in my opinion, is in this case, is that the state law trumps local law. So I've done a fair bit of homework on this, speaking with our planners, and I know that our planners have got the best, their best foot forward, our best foot forward. I don't think it goes far enough, but I can't change that, and I don't think we can change that at this stage. I've interrogated our planners many times, and they assure me that we can't do much about the state law. So until the state changes their own thinking, and or the federal changes their thinking in terms of helping and homelessness and help with the regular situation, this is the best we can do. It's as I said, it's not doesn't go as far as I want, but I don't, and I'm pretty comfortable that this is the best we can do. So I'll put this forward to everybody, and hopefully you'll follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this item? Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Well, I suggest, well, maybe it's just as well you went on the last council. This was deemed probably the same now, it seemed to be an impossibility for such a rash and foolish decision as to be not worthy of any council. So I can't believe that we're getting this far. I thank you, Councillor, for your leadership in bringing this to us, because it was your notice of motion that actually brought about the officer's work that led us to where we are now. And so thank you so much for doing that. I have just thrown up my hands and pulled up into a corner on it, trying to see that in fact it went properly. And of course, being on the city planning department, finance department, and on behalf of them for embracing the situation we find ourselves in, which is large numbers of people struggling to find someone to compete. In a decade ago, would have had no trouble to find a rental property, to be able to buy or find a mortgage for an affordable property, to be able to find a share house, somewhere to live, no problem. Now, major problem. And as we all know, the first thing we all need is housing. After we've got our immediate needs of food and water, the next thing we need every night is someone to live. And it is a tragic situation we find ourselves as a society in now. But this is, you say, doesn't go far enough, fair enough, but I'm very happy to adopt it as step one. And I know that you'll be pursuing it further in due course, but very happy to support where we're at now. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Gardner.
Look, I was going to mention that, Christine, yes, so this is round two. Certainly no. And I think last time we were told, it's the best we could do. So it's good to see this move along. Obviously, this is one of the highest, I think it's the highest community feedback we've had. So that obviously resonates in the community. Look, I also agree with Matt, it probably doesn't go far enough. The people need to sort of read it a bit. So the rules around it is that you have to have an existing house on the property, and it can't be done for a commercial basis. So anyone thinking of putting a tiny house in and then changing rent, you can't do it. It's not the answer to the position we're finding ourselves in housing, and nor will it ever answer everyone's problems, but it's an option. And not only that, tiny houses is a movement and is a choice for some people, so it's them a choice as well. To go further though, it's around planning, I think as Matt mentioned, so that's probably going to be round three. But no, this is a good amendment, it's a good start, and be interested to see how it goes.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Corby.
Yes, Mayor, just to acknowledge the efforts of the planning team. It's quite a complex area. I think they've done a fantastic job, and it'll be much appreciated by the community here.
And Councillor McClure, would you like to speak?
I was just going to say, yeah, it's a good outcome. I had the opportunity to sit on in a meeting with you, with a group of people. One of the ladies at that meeting had moved in with a house. It changed her life, the way she's living, she's life. And so moved by the way she spoke. Well done, Matt. It's a good true forward. So please support it.
Councillor Motley, you've got a right to reply.
Thank you. Look, everybody's in favour of starting this process of helping the housing crisis, and that's the first step. The previous council, Anderson, were up to date when they discussed it. However, there's no doubt we will continue to look at the issue and try and find other alternative ways of helping the housing crisis, no doubt. Thank you.
All right, with that all being said, I will put the motion, and all in favour. Look at that, that's all of us, motion carried. And just, I guess, to sum up, this has been, yes, a long process. This was, a hot topic for the previous council. And, you know, from the start, I think we've been hearing from people about this. Thank you, Councillor Driscoll, for bringing it back through council. And obviously, thank you to our officers for really, like people have said, like really doing their best to try and achieve something for the community that would help a bit. We all acknowledge that this is not going to solve the housing crisis, but it will help. It will provide people with an option, whether it's out of necessity or for a lifestyle change. And as everyone has said, we are pursuing lots of other things that we can do to help as well. But this is, I think this is a really good outcome. And I know many people, at least, well, a lot of this 1,616 people, the 91% who were supportive, they'll be very happy tonight. Mostly out of our team, I would like to thank Director Amir, Georgie, Manager of Development Services. I'd like to thank Ron Medler, who's our Coordinator for Community Safety and Amenity, and all of our Development Services team, because I thought this was unachievable at the beginning, and it wasn't. And it just took us, you know, we had to really dig in to find the right way to do this, the safe way to do this, to make sure that we could do it in a responsible way. I guess the other thing that I'd like to pick up on that a few of us have spoken about is that I think we don't spend enough time celebrating progress. We're always looking for perfection. We want things to be perfect straight away. And I don't think that's achievable a lot of the time, but this is a great step in the right direction. And while it might not go far enough for some people, this is amazing progress. Doesn't mean that this is the end, but I think we should absolutely celebrate all of our steps in the right direction. And this feels very much like one of them. We are moving to item 9.3.2, which is the climate change strategy. And I'll ask Councillor Henderson to introduce this item.
Well, thank you, Matt. So the climate change strategy sets the direction for Council's climate action now and into the future. It provides organisation-wide guidance for the way we operate, communicate and collaborate to achieve outcomes for us and with our community and partners. Importantly, the strategy recognises and builds on our strength. The purpose of this report is to present the climate change strategy for adoption and 2023-2024 financial year action plan for it.
And do I have a motion, councillors?
Oh, okay, I move that Council adopts the climate change strategy and notes the 2023-2024 year.
Councillor Henderson, do I have a second? Councillor Gardner, thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor Henderson, would you please speak to your motion?
As an issue, because back in 2019, Council declared a climate emergency, which was a big day, a long day, and an evening, hearing from many, following on, giving very long day of issues from our community. And based on the results of that, Council declared climate emergency, which is what they asked for. And then following the declaration, Council supported community members to develop a transition plan for their community emissions. This work is underway through a local community group called Warrawong. And the climate change strategy is identified in the current Council plan to be delivered this financial year. So we're just squeezing it into the June meetings. That's fantastic. And it's organisational wide. So it is very important to realise that it is the Council's climate change strategy. It's not community should do, it's what Council should be doing. It will influence future priorities and carbon across the county. So how does it develop? Well, in 2022, last year, Council's internal climate change leadership group, identified range of risks, climate change poses the Council infrastructure service delivery operations in the community. And that work informed the development of the strategy. So the feedback from early consultation informed the development of a draft strategy and this action plan for next year. They were displayed up for community feedback for 3 weeks, March and April, and internal consultation was also undertaken. That's really important. Feedback was consolidated, informed updates for the strategy and financial year. Yeah, so here it is, the final result. And what's important about it? Well, it's written a long time. It's not a date, it's not a closing date. Most of our strategies have, but this one is an ongoing document because climate change is not. It's written. I think the certain mayor had interest in this. It's written in plain language. You have to avoid it wherever possible bureaucracies and written in simple terms that anyone can be comfortable reading. And it does communicate council's role. So it does attempt to clarify the council's role by identifying where we have the powers and connections and resources to deliver outcomes, where other governments are better placed to affect the way we can best partner with the community and other organisations. And then it links and integrates what the two technical is doing. It's got 6 goals overall. And they're all set out here. I won't go into detail because everyone's read it. And I think the important thing really is at this stage is to pick up the action plan for the first year and just pick out a few things to illustrate that it is very much the council action plan. So under the first goal, I'm actually doing everything we do for the council plans. Here's a goal: review options to extend council commitment to diversity in fossil fuel investments within the transportation policy. Something we've been asked to do by the community group. Anyway, put it for us to try to avoid supporting companies. So the rest of things. There's another one, deliver 1 month pilot focused on integrating climate messages across council communication platform. Done by the end of this year. Under goal 2, we transition to a just and equitable way to zero emission data. There's a host an annual climate response planning meeting with local community groups. So to take community feedback and input into account the value of the action plan. And support information sharing between groups. And continue to monitor and usage and cost benefit of existing council leading charges. All council based going around to our infrastructure is robust going forward in the face of current and future climate change impacts. Explore potential for landscaping and footpath materials that are cooler and more permeable than traditional house surfaces such as concrete, while still meeting the diverse mobility needs of our community. Well, that's a challenge, but I think we should be looking at. We're serious about dealing with climate change. And then goal 5, community is connected and has the capacity to adapt to climate change, create additional opportunities that support young people to influence, participate in climate change response. Particularly councils who don't have literacy group and school strike. There's a few items from the many factors action plan, which will be monitored by the project climate change coordinator who will be chasing around asking people if they're doing what they're doing. I think also giving reporting procedures for every area of council. Correctly. So all workers, all teams will have to report how they're going in delivering all these various actions. But it's very embedded climate change strategy that recommended to the council.
Thank you, Councillor.
What I should say, sorry, that has been considerable input community, and I really thank the committee group workers who work very hard and in putting it in there to use.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, would you like to speak to the motion?
Briefly, I think Councillor Henderson has given us a good background and history of everything. Probably no need to go over it. Obviously, yeah, do recall the climate change debate we did drag on, but and obviously it reflects passion in our community. And so it's good to stop climate emergency. Even in their comments and feedback from the community on the strategy, when it comes to climate change, you obviously always get 4 for and against. And obviously people just don't, it doesn't exist and it's normal, etc. But I think that the important things for me in this is the normalisation of the operations of council. And I think despite if you believe in climate change or not, council adapting its infrastructure to the more extreme weather events that we have, and we have had them, and or looking at the ways of reducing its reliance on, very costly fuel and becoming more efficient. These are good things to do. And obviously the other good thing is putting 100% renewable energy, and we're well on the way to that as well. But it's important to stress that this is the council's plan and not the community plan, and that's coming, they're working on that still, I believe. So yeah, all in all, good plan, good start, and hopefully it continues for many years to come.
Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Councillor Anderson? Oh, Councillor Corey just snuck in.
Yeah, I just for the benefit of the community, I think one of the things, the big shift for me in council is over the years is that really it's probably since the declaration of climate emergency, what I've seen is that council is considering the climate impact on everything we do, and that's reflected in the decision making of the council. So I think it's a very complex area, but I'm seeing a genuine shift in the council at the council level, but also in the organisation. I think we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you, Councillor Corey. Councillor Anderson, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you. Sorry, she said, say that, I took over from you, and thank you very much for your leadership in the early part of the
Oh, thank you. I don't think I did very much before you took over from me, but thank you anyway. Given that we've all said our bit, I will put the motion, and all in favour? That's all of us. Motion carried. Yeah, climate strategy. It is important. I think I'll speak a little bit later. You mentioned that there's a community plan as well. I'll speak a bit later about that. That was part of kind of what was agreed to at when the climate crisis was declared. The council would manage its operations and get down to net zero, and that the community would have a transition plan as well, and they would work together to implement them. So we're on our way with what we're doing. I think this is a great step in the right direction. And later in my delegates report, I'll speak a bit about what's happening with the community. We know this is a very emotive area. People are very passionate about this at whichever end of the spectrum they sit. We do have a large part of our community that is deeply concerned about the impacts of climate change. And I know that it can be tricky sometimes to balance everyone's views, because everyone has a different starting point, I think, of how to tackle climate change. Really, I'm just leading up to saying it can be tricky to make everyone happy, really, especially in the climate change kind of area, I think. And really what I'm trying to do is commend Mel Marshall, who is our climate change coordinator, as well as Director Anir and Brett Gloria and Michael Billington, who put in the hard yards on this, and really, I think, achieved something great. Particularly, I'm saying that biasly because my preference for things is to be in plain language. I hate acronyms with a passion, and this climate change strategy is one of the most accessible that I've ever read, and I love that. I love that for me, for one, but I also love that for anyone who's ever felt excluded from the climate change conversation because they don't know what that acronym stands for, or they don't understand how carbon offsetting works. I think it's really nice to have something written that most people can understand, and I think it's a really good demonstration of how we're trying to change the way that we communicate with the community. So I'm really chuffed about this one. We're on to 9.3.3, which is the urban tree policy 2023 to 2028. Councillor McClure, would you like to introduce this item?
May I please do that? The management of trees on council managed land is based on an understanding of the dynamic nature of the resource. Its legislative, its aesthetic, its safety requirements, public attitude and its perception, and the council's commitment to engaging and working with the community in undertaking best practice tree management within an allocated budget. The development of the council's first urban tree policy establishes council's position in relation to the management of approximately 24,000 trees located in a street, park or other council managed property within an urban area of the Shire. The objective of this policy is to provide a strategic framework for the management of urban trees located on council managed land, protect areas of important vegetation, including botanically, historically, culturally important vegetation or vegetation of outstanding aesthetic or ecological significance, and for habitat of rare or endangered species. Promote the preservation of the existing tree canopy cover to mitigate the urban heat island effect and impact on climate change within the urban area, standardise tree management decisions, and to value the contribution of urban trees to the livability and character of the Shire, including the social, environmental and economic benefits. It's intended that the urban tree policy is reviewed every 5 years. And I'll move that council adopts the urban tree policy for 23 to 28 5-year period.
Thank you, Councillor McClure. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
Councillor Maltby, is there any opposition? Councillor McClure, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you. Just congratulate to thank Michael and his team, Stuart Campbell, putting the document together. It's been quite a lot of work. I was astounded when Stuart presented to us one time and he produced an iPad with all the trees noted in the Shire, 24,000 on that big. And I was just amazed that we had that sort of technology. So it's, I guess this captures that work. I was going to say its policy does only apply to council land trees on private, doesn't apply to trees on private property, doesn't apply to trees on rural roadsides which are managed in accordance with the council's management plan. It does not apply to trees located beyond the township zone, the 60k speed limits on roadsides managed by the Department of Transport and Planning. And it doesn't apply to trees located on ground land managed by the Victorian State authorities. The policy provides an overview of practices used as part of the following tree management activities: tree management, tree protection, tree estate, tree removal. So it is a good policy and I recommend it.
Excellent. So would you like to speak to this section?
I just endorse Councillor McClure's comments. It is a good policy and we'll look after the trees that are in our land. Basically.
That will. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item?
Yeah. Tree loving Bill. Yeah, look, Gary's quite right. So there is a lot of trees, and I remember particularly some land care groups, and I know Melbourne in Melbourne in particular did a huge effort going around mapping all these trees and work with council and to see it on a database was amazing. And also obviously the team who look after it now, I've had nothing but good feedback, particularly. Obviously there used to be lots of negative feedback. We have our own arborist now and a team looking after it. And I think for me, one of the great things in this is that there's sort of a better, if we take one down, we'll put not necessarily in the same location. So we don't sort of over time slowly get rid of the canopy. So yeah, it's good policy.
Anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Cordy.
Yes, now I'd just like to acknowledge our Parks and Gardens team in particular. It's a fantastic team and our parks are credited and certainly the township trees as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Henderson.
the trees. But point out we've got more trees in our public places than we have humans. We've got human population, about 21,000, we've got 24,000 trees.
Okay.
No, that's not one thing between the towns, so I'm pretty pleased about that really, trees outnumbering humans. And I do notice, I love this, the tree management guideline is a living document. And that we're spending more than $500,000 in maintenance. We've got, 84,000 new ones in establishment, but $500,000 just on maintaining. This is a huge improvement in the past where we do something about the trees. Very reactive, very unplanned, very under-resourced, and now we are on to the stigma. Because of course things get harder with the trees by the year as climate progresses. But yeah, certainly very pleased to endorse this urban tree policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Like, Councillor McClure, you've got a right of reply.
No, please.
Great, all right. That being said, I will put the motion and all in favour. Correct the trees, motion carried. And again, we're really working on acknowledging everyone at the moment because it's a tough gig in council sometimes. So again, I'll acknowledge Director Annia and particularly from the Parks and Gardens team, Stuart Campbell and Karen Evanet, who did the highlights on this one. And this is our first urban tree policy, so it's actually pretty exciting. And given that there are more trees than people, yes, I think it's good that we look after them in case they, rise up against us or anything like that. Okay, moving on to 9.4, and we're up to economy. And 9.4.1 is planning permit application PA 118/2022, 1 Wallace Street, Castlemaine. Councillor McClure, would you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to introduce this. The purpose of this report is to enable council to decide on an application for 6-lot subdivision 1 Wallace Street, Castlemaine. The application has been referred to the council for a decision because 6 objections have been received. Council officers recommended approval of the application. Subject site is located within the Federal Residential Zone 1, where the Mayor Alexander planning scheme. The site is not affected by any overlays. The grounds of objection relate to the following points: neighbourhood character, residential development, driveway location, parking and street access, waste removal, waste bin location, permeability and stormwater management. The application was assessed against the relevant planning considerations and is considered that the proposal is consistent with planning policy framework, zoning and provisions of the Mount Alexander planning scheme. Informing this position, consideration was given the grounds of objection and the views of the relevant referral authorities. It is recommended the application is supported and the notice of decision granted permit division. That's the following recommendation, which I would move that.
Please don't read it all.
No, I'm not going to read it as printed. The recommendation is printed.
Fantastic. And do I have a second? Councillor Driscoll, thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor Cordy? Thank you. All right. Councillor McClure, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. There has obviously been a lot of work in this application. I think the officer has got the support right in this particular instance. I was pleased to sit in on the objective meeting a couple of weeks ago and see that a couple of the issues or objections that were raised that night were resolved with a number of the objectives that the applicant was prepared to provide a few modifications to the design to meet a few of the objectives. So I think that most things have been done to try and alleviate some of the concerns that some of the residents had. Obviously, the relation to the neighbourhood character, probably 5 or 6 houses in this location is going to change this part of the world a little bit. But I think as we move forward, there's no more land being made. It's becoming increasingly more difficult to to spread our wings beyond the city's own limits. So all the development and all the expansion that's going to happen, I think, within our townships in the future is very much going to happen within the township boundaries. So this is an example of how it's going to have to happen, I believe. So I think it's a good outcome for the site. It's a pity that the Castlemaine Rock business had to die and had to go as a result of that, but so be it. But anyway, I think it's a good outcome for the site and I support it. Thank you.
No, I have a query. Dr. Leon.
Sorry, councillor.
But, for the councillor, has referred to the modifications agreed at the Jackson Museum. Just want to ask you if they have actually found their way into the condition. Or
So there's some issues that were raised. Are raised in the report. There is issues related to legislation, the barriers, and fencing within applications. So there is provision within the permitted conditions that are presented for those issues to be addressed. The specific details of the discussion between the applicants and community members are not being incorporated into this report, that it's between the two, and are regulated by other legislation, for example, the Fencing Act, which regulates the arrangement between the two owners in relation to fencing.
thinking of vegetation, I think.
There's requirements there with regard to vegetation. The applicant and the objectors have not specifically reported back and addressed those within the permitting conditions, but the overall aspects are contained within it.
I mean, the other issue was stormwater, so I'm assuming that will be managed by a plan approved by council.
Thank you. So councillor Young, yes, many conditions require the development is not increased. Discharges from water from the current levels of the property, which is a standard practice we have, and that the applicant in the development is required to introduce retention and stormwater to the satisfaction of council before it can be applied.
Thank you, Director. Are there any further questions before we continue? All right, so I need a seconder. Yeah, I've got one of those. All right, so Councillor Driscoll, would you like to sorry. I don't. You spoke to it. I'm sorry, I got a bit derailed there. Councillor Driscoll, as a seconder, would you like to speak to the motion now, or you can speak at the end?
I'll speak now, thanks, Mayor. So this application, I just want to note that has been assessed against development planning considerations, and it's considered that the proposal is consistent with planning policy framework, the provision of the land planning scheme. And also in forming this position, consideration was given to the grounds of objection and the views of the relevant federal authorities. This 6-lot subdivision gives a diverse number of lot sizes, and that's a good situation because that means lots of different families and lots of different economic rates can enter the housing market. There was a recent article in the Financial Review saying that local governments has caused 30 to 40 years less housing that would have come if they had just been given by the officer's recommendations, according to some survey, but not in this case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gordon, would you like to speak in opposition?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, in theory, it's all right, but me, what's before us represents an overdevelopment of the site. Access and egress to the properties at the back, the 4 properties at the back, is severely restricted. There's only one-way traffic there, so people can't pass on the driveway. In fact, just looking at it, if someone with a young child or a stroller is walking on that pavement, a car, they'll have to back up, or a car will have to back up to let the other one go. It's for me, it's just going to be an ongoing source of frustration and annoyance for the people at the back. And I just think it's totally inconsistent with, it might comply with the rules, but it's totally inconsistent with the sorts of values of living in rural and country Victoria. Look, it might be all right in Collingwood or Essendon or somewhere, but it's just nonsense. And the other thing that with this is, it's not being proposed by a local developer. It's someone from out of town to roll in, cut up all these blocks in somebody's backyard, take their money and go off somewhere else. And for me, it's very ordinary. Probably shouldn't be 6 allotments, probably should be 4, and access should be 2 ways. So I think that people, when this goes, it'll probably go ahead. When people get those lots and build, it's just going to be a nightmare going forward. And I wouldn't support it in any respect. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Maltby.
I don't often disagree with Councillor Cordy, but I do here. The land size is over 3,000 square metres. And the allotments that are being proposed are very good sized ones. If I could take this to some other new subdivisions that have happened recently, this is one of the better ones. And we all know there is no, as Councillor McClure says, there is a lack of land in the township. And it is an urban township, it's not rural Victoria.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Henderson, would you like to speak to this item?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Councillor Corey. What he's saying is that we've got this single length driveway, and if you look at the numbers, we've got 40 metres of single field, single track access. And he's right, if anyone's walking down there, if anyone's, in a stroller, in a wheelchair, whatever, not able to sprint 40 metres in the time it takes one of their neighbours to enter into the one-way system, then they're in trouble. And it's not a good setup. I mean, these things come about by degrees, and okay, that's the way like this, but to actually establish 6 lots, 6 lots in the configuration, it's just bad. It's very unfortunate that the front is so narrow. And it's interesting what happens to development. But if they could take them, we've got 1 and 2 and turn them into one long narrow lot and allow a double way, a 2-way street down there, that's fine by me. I'm not against having those spots back, but it's just horrible. It's not going to be a good place. It's going to cause conflict. It's going to cause disharmony. It's going to cause, it's not going to be good. And so I don't want to
Councillor Gardner.
Interesting. I think this debate reflects what's possibly going to happen in the future. And it really is going to become a very serious issue for this community. A lot of people moved here, Castlemaine, that's where we're living. And what will happen over time is that it will be cut up and it will become small. So really that is something, a conversation I feel that the community needs to have, because really Castlemaine and surrounds have been quite generally unaffected by this. However, the money moves around to where the buck can be made, and obviously Castlemaine being so close to town, it's going to become much in favour. Having said that, the planning scheme is quite clear on it. You can basically build a house on a 300 square metre and be double storey in a residential zone, and that's the way it is. And people need to start talking about that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McClure, would you have a right of reply?
Well, only to really say that I think our engineering team would have had a look at been referred to the application. They obviously had objected to it. Otherwise, there would have been some comments. I haven't seen any comments objecting to the layout of the subdivision. It's a common property driveway. I think any issues in relation to access, egress and ingress will be sorted out in the property in the course of common property disputes. I would imagine in the future if it ever gets to that, I doubt it. It's got to go through a design process. The engineering team at council have got to be satisfied that whatever design they come up with in terms of the roads, the drainage, and all the rest of it is workable. And I'm got all the confidence that they will be happy with that. We've got a well hard to get a design that meets the requirements that are necessary for ingress and the movement of cars and pedestrians through the site. So I'm comfortable that it's a good layout and I'm still happy to support the motion. Thanks.
All right, councillors, I will now put the motion and all in favour and opposed. Motion is carried. Call for a decision from councillor Cordy. So again, all in favour. That is councillor McCullough, councillor Driscoll, councillor Maltby, councillor Gardner and myself. And all opposed, councillor Cordy and councillor Henderson. Thank you. We are up to item 9.4.2, planning permit application PA 006/2023, 10 Campbell Street, Castlemaine. Councillor Maltby, would you like to introduce this item?
Yes. The purpose of this report is to enable council to make a determination on application PA 006/2023 for the use and development of an office in a heritage overlay and reduction of car parking in 10 Campbell Street, Castlemaine. The application has been referred to council for a decision. Council officers are recommending refusal of the application. Subject site is located in the general residential 1 zone and heritage overlay pursuant to Mount Alexander planning search. The application has been assessed against the Mount Alexander planning scheme and state government documentation on applying the heritage overlay. Proposal is considered to own a prohibited use where the applicant has not adequately demonstrated that the distinct available range of permissible uses cannot suitably provide for the protection of the heritage building.
And councillors, do I have a motion?
Yes. I would move council issue a planning permit.
Sorry,
I'm moving.
you are moving, I'm listening.
The council issue a planning permit associated with PA 006/2023, the use and development of an office in a heritage overlay, a reduction of car parking at 10 Campbell Street, Castlemaine, subject to the conditions that are printed on the alternative motion that all councillors have received.
I think because it's not seen, we need to read it out.
I'll read it out.
So just, you're reading an alternative motion
Yeah.
in full?
In full with
And
the-
I think that's what we need to do because it's not seen. Yeah, go for it.
You have a copy.
You want me to read it out?
No, everybody has a copy.
It's not available.
Councillor
Okay,
Gardner,
you got to read it out.
fine. Easy.
Thank you, councillor.
Condition 1, plan. Prior to the commencement of the use or development, amended plans to the satisfaction of the responsible authority must be submitted to and approved by the responsible authority. When approved, plans will be endorsed and will then form part of the permit. The plans must be drawn to scale with dimensions and 3 copies must be provided. Plans must be generally in accordance with the advertised plans, but further modified to show A heritage condition and maintenance plan as required by condition 9 of this permit. B, identification of significant heritage features in relation to proposed demolition and where appropriate, details of how they will be detected from inadvertent damage, for example, covering of windows, propping of walls, etc. Satisfaction of council's heritage advisor. B, a notation stating how the non-original veranda posts will be removed using hand tools, taking care to avoid damage to the 19th century fabric. B, a notation stating that the original veranda structure and roofing iron will be retained for reuse. D, the original door in the proposed meeting room must be retained and stored securely on site. F, the veranda retained and reconstructed using retained material where possible, including 1.10 sectional detail of proposed veranda, including the detail of post, post gutter, veranda floor. If not possible to find evidence of the original post detail, a 90 by 90 square post with no details is supported. Compliance with the endorsed plan. 2, the layout of the use and development as shown on the endorsed plans must not be altered or modified unless otherwise agreed in writing by the responsible authority. Hours of operation. The use must only operate between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, unless otherwise agreed in writing by the responsible authority. General conditions. External lighting must be designed, baffled and located so as to prevent any adverse effect of light spill on adjoining land to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. All external materials, finishes and paint colours are to be to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. No plant, equipment, services or architectural features other than those shown on the endorsed plans are permitted up to the roof level of the building, otherwise agreed by the responsible authority. The piping and ducting, excluding downpipes, guttering and rainwater header, must be concealed from public view to satisfaction of the responsible authority. All areas of disturbed ground must be stabilised and revegetated at the completion of the development to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Prior to the commencement of the use or development, a detailed heritage condition and maintenance plan for the original cottage prepared by a suitably qualified heritage consultant or architect, building designer with heritage experience must be submitted to and approved by the responsible authority to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Before the demolition starts, an archival quality and noted photographic study of the building must be submitted to and approved by the responsible authority. When approved, the report will be endorsed and will then form part of the permit. The report must be prepared by a suitably qualified heritage professional and must include photographic documentation of each elevation of the building, photographic documentation of the interior of the building, photographic documentation of any significant architectural design features of the building, a statement prepared by an architectural historian describing and explaining both the design and construction of the building and the photographs. Engineering. Before the use starts, the owner must ensure the vehicle crossing is constructed in accordance with Mount Alexander Shire Council standard drawings to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. The development must be drained to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Before the use starts, the areas must set aside for the parking of vehicles and access lanes as shown on the endorsed plans must be fully constructed, properly formed to such levels that may be used in accordance with the plans, surfaced with an all-weather surface or seal coat as appropriate, drained and maintained in continuously usable condition, line marked to indicate each car space, loading bay and or access lane. Clearly marked to show the direction of traffic along access lanes and driveways, all to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Car spaces, access lanes and driveways must be kept available for these purposes at all times and maintained to the satisfaction of the responsible authority. Solid and water conditions. An application is required to be received and consented to by Cumberland Water prior to alteration, amendments to the existing potable water supply, sanitary plumbing fixtures and the property service drains located within this development site, which will need to be made through our consent to connect process in accordance with our conditions. All private works for water supply and sanitary drainage must be constructed in accordance with the National Plumbing and Drainage Code of Australia, being AS 3500, the MRWA Water Metering and Service Guidelines 2022, and or any relevant requirements of Colourbound Water. Evidence is required to be forwarded to Colourbound Water verifying the amendments to the existing property service drains. The evidence required is a letter, statement from a registered and licensed plumbing contractor for the amendments to property drains. As detailed, as constructed plan of the drain amendments and a copy of Victorian Building Authority's compliance certificate are required to be forwarded to Colourbound Water for record purposes. Please note, under section 1655 of the Water Act 1989, Colourbound Water is not required to ensure that water pressure is adequate for firefighting. Important to note that Colourbound Water does not guarantee fire floods. Permit expiry. The permit will expire if one of the following circumstances applies. The development is not started within 2 years of the date of the permit. The development is not completed within 4 years of the date of the permit. The use is not started within 4 years of the date of the permit. The use is discontinued for a period of 2 years. The responsible authority may extend the permit if a request is made in writing in accordance with section 69 of Planning and Environment Act 1987.
Thank you, councillor.
I
Thank you for that.
move that.
You would make that? Fantastic. Would someone like to second that? And you don't need to read it out. So thank you, councillor Driscoll. Is there any opposition? Councillor Gardner? All right. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yeah. So this is a planning permit conditions that are recommended in the motion reflect the heritage of the property, and they will make sure that the owner doesn't ruin the heritage of the building. The other thing that needs to be considered and thought about is that part of Campbell Street, so the west block from Market Street to Kennedy Street, is already 50% commercial activity. For these days, we will be getting more applications for that block and in Temple Street as well, because the commercial sector of town will move that way as well as the now developing Forest Street. It's not it's an office, it's not a factory. It's a simple use of an old historic house. I don't know why we're suggesting it couldn't happen.
You know?
I'm done.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to speak to the motion?
I might wait, that's okay.
That is fine, you may. Councillor Gardner, would you like to speak in opposition of the motion?
Yeah, sure. The reason, I suppose, why the opposite recommended, and this is actually a very interesting one, and it was discussed at great length and debate. The house is a heritage house. It actually has an overlay and has a specific heritage mention. The reason for the refusal is that under the heritage guidelines, laws, whatever, the applicant has to exhaust all options for an alternative use can be found. So this is currently a house. And it's sort of ironic in the previous discussion we had about, you know, how we need more houses, but we're prepared to turn away this house. But there you go. Sometimes irony is there. So the applicant hasn't exhausted all options under the Heritage Act to maintain and preserve the heritage, because it's a house. So it would need to initially try to sell the house. Now, the applicant has also done what I consider to be demolition by dereliction, if you say that. And in some sense, the way they've gone about it has been a bit of mockery of the planning scheme by buying the land around the house and absorbing it into their business And then there's only a little bit left, and lo and behold, we can preserve it, by turning into an office. Under the, advice from Heritage Victoria, all other options need to have been exhausted prior, to change of use. And that hasn't happened, and that's why I'm against it and supporting the officers' recommendation. And this is taking a house off the market. Longlet's house in Castlemaine into an office. That's why I'm against it.
Thank you, councillor Gardner. Does anyone wish to speak in support of the motion? Councillor McLaughlin?
Thank you, Mayor. Just, listening to Stephen's not support of the motion, on support of the motion, just want to refer him to the Heritage Officer's urban design by Council's Heritage Officer, and there's a statement in there which talks about prohibited uses. The schedule to the Heritage Overlay notes that prohibited uses. I have considered the change of use proposal and refer to the Heritage Overlay Guidelines 13 change of use prepared by the Heritage Council and Heritage Victoria. It is good practice to retain the purpose for which a building was originally constructed or for use with which it had long been an association. However, the proposal makes minimal changes to the original cottage in order for the cottage to be used as offices, so the change is considered acceptable. So, the Heritage Officer within the organisation supports the use of this building as an office facility. I agree with Bill that half of that street is now commercial. Across the road there's a depot, there's a plumbing store up the road, there's a tyre business on the corner. Of course, the operation of the funeral business itself is a big business. It's used quite regularly. So, yes, even if the house is changed into offices, it can always be converted back to a house quite simply. I don't think it's ever going to change that principle, that it may still be used for a house in the future. It can even be. But I think in this particular location, where it's surrounded by a car park, it's almost an inappropriate use for a house surrounded by a car park and funeral parlour next door. So I think the fact that our heritage person has supported the design and the proposal in principle, I think it's a good use of the site. I think I'm pleased to see that we have a person that is prepared to spend some money on doing up an old building and yes, repurposing it for an office building that's ancillary to the operations of the funeral parlour. I think it's a win-win for the community and I think for that.
Thank you, councillor. Does anyone wish to speak in opposition of the motion? Does anyone wish to speak in support of the motion? We'll just see if anyone else does before I come back to you, councillor Driscoll. But I don't think so. So, councillor Driscoll, if you would like to, you can speak now.
Thanks, Mayor. I totally respect our council officers and Council Gardner, but this is about interpretation, in my opinion. And I've gone and had a chat with the applicant, and I've looked through the property and at the property, and I've actually done a heritage review for it. This is going to cost a lot of money, and you have to have the money to be able to do this. And this is house is surrounded by the car park. Toilets and the kitchen don't exist inside the house. It's actually outside the house. So this is not a house off the market. With all due respect to you, Councillor Brown, I'm not sure if you actually want to look at the house because it's just, there's no kitchen, no toilet in the house. A lot of money needs to be spent on this. I don't agree with your statement that the applicant made a mockery of planning. The applicant did a deal with the previous owner's family, which is a wonderful deal for them and allow the person to stay in there for a long period. And that person chose not to do anything with the house. So I don't agree with you that the applicant is part of their plan to make the building dilapidated. I think the end result, which we all want, is preservation of this heritage building. And I see the only way forward for this is by allowing this motion that councillor Maltby put through.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Maltby, you've got a right of reply.
Thank you. Councillor Driscoll is correct. It's been vacant for many years. Tell you the exact number, but it has been vacant. And if the applicant didn't want to use it for another purpose and restore it, he could leave it there and let it deteriorate. Simple as that. But it's not taking a house off the market that people are using, as Councillor Driscoll has explained. And it hasn't been lived in for some time. And it is what I'm saying, it's going to be a commercial part of the community because it already is 50% now in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. With all that being said, I will put the motion. All in favour? Against? Motion carried. We are moving on to 9.4.3, annual plan progress report 2022/2023 quarter three. And councillor McCall, can I ask you to introduce this item, please? Then you can manage.
Mayor, this report provides an update on the status and progress of projects in the 2022-23 annual plan to the end of March, so it's the first quarter for 2023. And I'd like to move that the council notes the annual plan progress report 2022/2023 quarter three.
And do I have a second? Councillor Corley, thank you. Is there any opposition? Councillor McCall, would you then like to speak to your motion, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, pleasing document to see. I've been clicking through it over the last few days and note there's quite a few 100% in our progress. And remembering we're nearly at the end of the last quarter, so I'd imagine if we had this updated today, that there'd probably be a few more 100%. So I was just working through the before, and I noticed that a couple of them are about 100%, like the tip cell, I think it was 80%. I think that's now 100%. So it's pleasing to see that we're well through our progress work for the year, and this document outlines the progress on quite a number of projects in line with the principles of the annual plan. So I recommend it to councillors. And it's actually a good document, and I congratulate Michael and his team for the amount of work they have to achieve. I know it's been a difficult year for the team. As we spoke about earlier on in terms of the budget, one of the difficulties I know the team have had not only engaging contractors, but getting enough people to do the work, but certainly trying to get jobs or projects completed in the budget because of the huge increase in prices that we've had in recent time. And there'll be a few projects that will move over into next year, but for the most part, there's been progress on the project. So thanks, Michael, for your team for.
Thank you. Councillor Corley, would you like to speak to this motion?
Thanks, Mayor. Look, it's a great report, shows really good progress. Report comes under Director Knight and Carolyn Ross, our finance executive manager, has prepared the report. But it goes across activities right across the council organisation. We get these reports quarterly, and it's really good to see the progress being made. And I just like to thank the whole council team for pressing on and getting stuff done. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Corley. Anyone else wish to speak to this item?
Can I just apologise to Lisa? I mean, I'll get forward a report. Most of the work was the work that's been done under Michael's team, but I shouldn't make that was a lot of managed under Lisa's team, and I apologise for that. So congratulations on your team's done, the whole organisation.
Well, I think he's getting in deeper.
Thank you, Councillor Claudie and Councillor McGuire. Councillor Henderson, would you like to speak to this?
I just want to flag, and I think you mentioned the self-helping with just a few words, and of course, did, 43. But I know councillors have having and councillor Wilson not trying to say the self-helping this complete. It's easy to say that. Well, I live in a person who has a lot of the projects that are going to be done one day. And the reason, probably the reason we're still together is because, you know, eventually they get done. It's quite remarkable. Some of them done without question, some of them from quite difficult will take quite a long time. And, you know, I'm certainly not comparing the home management thing with self-helping, but I'm just used to hearing, oh yes, we'll get one day, one done one day, but it was getting to a stage where it was just insurmountable that we'd ever be able to overcome the problems dealing with the various authorities that govern our tip, our land. Would we ever be able to do it without spending zillions of dollars and still not getting it right? So to amend, I think that we all our CEO, certainly working with his directions, we have to work with a series of directors to actually get the job done, do what had to be done, take our land law, our clothes, or another accepting waste to our space of the law, and cabinet to the satisfaction of the EPA and all the other authorities that were around us in that. It's just fantastic that it's done. All we have to do now is manage it for the next 60 years or whatever. That's not a problem. It has been also congratulations. So, great.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. And Councillor Gardner, would you like to speak to this one?
I'm going to say, Christine, maybe you should take this template home to team and map it down with status target, and you can have quarterly progress meetings and see how you go. But it's good report, sorry.
Excellent suggestion there, Councillor Gardner. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? No? Councillor McCauley, have you like to reply? Fair enough. I will then put the item and all in favour. Okay. Thank you, everyone. The motion is passed. There's one very exciting item in here, which on the sheets that we have is sitting at 60%, but in fact it became 100% today, which I will mention in a little bit in the delegates report, but one more exciting update there. But first, we're moving on to item 9.4.4, which is the financial report quarter 3 for 2022/2023. Councillor Pauly, over to you.
Thanks, Mayor. I just note this comes under Director 9, Executive Manager Corporate Services, Carolyn Ross and her team. So great work, team. But the purpose of this report is to present the finance report for the quarter ended 31st of March 2023. This report was presented to the Audit and Risk Committee at its May 2023 meeting, and I'll follow with I move the recommendation that Council notes the finance report the 9-month period to 31st of March 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Claudie. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Motley, thank you. Is there any opposition? No? Then Councillor Claudie, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, look, it's a great report. The part that I like reading about is the Auditor General's tick boxes there, and where everything that could be expected of us were achieved. It's a fantastic report. We're actually going along very well into $600,000 under budget year to date. That's at the end of March. Our capital works is a little bit behind, but the reality is that's always the case with delivering capital projects, but council remains in very sound financial shape, all things considered, and yeah, very happy to support this report. So thank you again to the finance team.
Thanks, councillor Corby. Councillor Maltby, would you like to speak to this motion?
I think councillor Corby's covered off.
Fantastic. Would anyone else like to speak to this item?
I want to sort of make a comment, that, I've seen these reports evolve, and there's a lot more information and detail. And obviously there's some good numbers in there too, but I just think it's great to see the level of content, and it continues to expand, so that we're, getting really informed.
Thanks, councillor Gardner. Does anyone else wish to speak to this item? Councillor Cordy, you've got a right to reply.
Just following on from what Stephen mentioned, like it puts details on our investment portfolio, about investment and the like, and those, that was 2 or 3 years ago, we're having that debate, but all that's been incorporated in the report. So a very comprehensive report, and the reality is with council in sound financial shape, it means that we can advantage of opportunities when they come up, and I think well done to all of the management team and council team. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. With that, I will put the motion. All in favour? Motion carried. And again, big thanks to Director Knight and the finance team. It's something that I struggle with, but I really enjoy these finance reports because they keep me informed, I think, in a way that's accessible to me, someone who's not great with finance, and they always give me a good sense of kind of how they're tracking, and that's really valuable. Right, we have reached item 10, and we're up to delegates' reports. Councillors, does anyone have a delegates' report they'd like to share? Well, guess what? I have one. I have a big one. You have received the copies of the CEO and my delegate report. You'll notice that for the first time in my memory, they made it onto the 3rd page, which I'm very excited about. I was also thinking back this yesterday when I was putting my part of this together, and remembering that when I attended this first meeting way back at the beginning of this council cycle, that was when I still had pneumonia in both lungs. So remembering how sick I was, and then feeling better, so much better now, is really, really, really lovely. Yeah, and obviously it's been a really exciting month. I could talk for a really long time about what I've been up to, but I won't, because everyone will get annoyed. But I will mention a few that I think were particularly special for me. I'm going to start going back to the library, which everyone knows I love. And for the second time, I was invited to be the reader of the National Simultaneous Story, which I always enjoy doing. This year, the story was about a sloth. This was called the Speedy Sloth, but by nature, sloths are not very fast creatures. And it was about a sloth that ran in a running race with all these other creatures, and they were all going past the sloth. But eventually the sloth finished last behind everyone else, and the sloth had never finished the running race before. So everyone clapped and was really happy, and then the sloth made it home in time for dinner. And the moral of the story was pretty much you're running your own race. It doesn't matter where you come. It matters if you finish. It matters if you show up and have a go. It matters if you try new things. And so reading that story to a bunch of preschool children and their parents and their carers, I bought a beautiful sloth-themed dress, which I like to do, just to, be a bit fancy, which got a lot of praise. At one point, I asked the children to count the sloths on my dress, but they started poking me all over my body, and I didn't enjoy it very much. So we scrapped that one pretty quick, but we did talk a lot about sloths. They're a very exciting creature, and it was a beautiful event. Just one of the many lovely things that I got to do this last month. I think the following week, I was able to attend a different but no less important event, which is National Sorry Day. And this is such an important one for us in our community, where we do have these incredibly strong ties with our Jara community. So part of what we do as council is every year, the mayor of the council, that year does a bit of a reflection piece based on the theme of Sorry Day and to some extent, the theme of Reconciliation Week that year. It's my second time doing the Sorry Day speech. It always makes me really nervous ahead of time because I so want to get it right. I so want to do a good job and find the right words to say. This year's event, I think, was particularly beautiful. It was held at Castlemaine Secondary College on their oval. Uncle Rick was not around with us this year. He was over somewhere else doing Welcomes to Country. And so it was Auntie Let who did the Welcome to Country, only the second time I've ever seen her do it. And yeah, it was incredible. She's grown so much in her ability to really command not the room, but the oval. And that was really special. We also had a keynote speech from Kellyanne Blake, who's a local Indigenous woman, and she shared her life experience growing up as with her grandparents and parents as members of the stolen generation, and also with herself removed from her parents' care. It was very sad, very impactful, and very brave of her to share that. And I know that a lot of people felt very moved by her words. We were also lucky to have 2 primary schools come along. So all of the senior school of Winters Flat and Shooting primary schools came along, and representatives from both those schools. So young people spoke and shared their reflections on Sorry Day as well. And in many ways, I think the words of the kids, both the primary schools and of the school captain of Castlemaine Secondary College, they were very powerful. Kids kind of know what's going on and really want to make things right as much as they can. So it's a really beautiful, but obviously very solemn day. But it was lovely. And that, of course, was followed up by the launch of National Reconciliation Week on the Saturday, which the CEO presided over and was down at the Market Building next to lovely Bunjil, which we'll be talking about a little bit more in a second. A beautiful morning as well. Obviously, the Nalderun Awards were awarded on that day as well. One of our own staff, beautiful Aileen from the Visitor Information Centre, was honoured with a Nalderun Award for all her support over the years of helping them with Reconciliation Week and really allowing them to use the space. So I think that was very powerful. What else? Exciting then. So another good timing one. We've been talking about climate change a bit tonight, and we've endorsed our climate change strategy. And we're talking about how kind of the other part of this is a community transition plan owned and managed by the community, but which kind of works in tandem with what we're trying to achieve. And so I was invited to the launch of the Warrarat Community Transition Plan a couple of weeks ago. They prepared their own document. It's very different from our document, but it sets out the goals and aspirations for how to get the community to transition in a responsible way by having lots of different little projects, I guess, because we know that we have so many people in our area who are passionate. It's about harnessing that power, getting people to work together. And importantly, I think, how to engage people who aren't engaged already. It was again a lovely night. I was able to sit on the panel, and yeah, it was really nice that we're walking alongside each other while we're managing our own things. Where obviously these plans fed into each other. We sat on their working group, they sat on our climate change community reference group. There is a lot of collaboration there, and it was a real honour to be invited and to get to be a part of that conversation. And my part of the conversation, as always, is to say, please stop using acronyms, because people like me won't understand what you're talking about, and then you will think climate change is not for you. So that is my message that I'm saying loudly to everyone. But it was a really lovely thing to be a part of. My last lovely thing before the very exciting last week is being invited to the launch of the Castlemaine Jazz Festival. There's a secret about me in jazz that not many people know. I'm not going to tell you tonight because then Marie will give me the look. But I was very pleased to be invited along, and it turned into quite a great night. I took my older daughter with me. I would not say the music was your standard jazz on that first night. We had Tech Tech Ensemble, the Seduciphones, and the 7 Ups, I think. All of them look pretty cool. The Seduciphones played my 30th. They're pretty cool, let's be honest. And it was a joy to see, but you know, people both young and old taking to the dance floor and really getting into it. And it was packed. So congratulations to the Jazz Festival as well. One more I attended locally, which again, very exciting. We have such a great community. On the weekend, my dad and I went down to the Theatre Royal to see a film as part of the Castlemaine Documentary Festival. And this was a really special one because it was a locally made documentary about the kind of inception and journey of the Mount Alexander Falcons. So we all know a little bit about the Falcons and how kind of they didn't get accepted the first year, and then they, you know, fought the odds and were accepted into a league and are now kind of going great guns. But what I didn't know was the story of so many of the people involved and how healing and inspiring being part of the club has been for them. It was a really incredible film. I think it's going to do pretty great things, honestly. I haven't seen anything like it. And it was a real joy, I think, to be there with my dad, who loves football and is also pretty supportive of women. So it was a good combo. And we were able to have these fantastic conversations afterwards where my dad kind of said, "Oh, but you haven't felt like that." And I was like, "Well, yeah, Dad, actually most women have." So it was a really good conversation starter and a fantastic documentary, and a real pleasure to be there. And the Theatre Royal was packed. There was not a spare seat in the house. So the community wrapping around this club and this festival and everything was pretty inspiring again. So that's what we've been doing at home. I got one more update. You all know a little bit, but I'm going to share it anyway, because last week I was joyfully allowed to accompany the CEO to Canberra of the National General Assembly and Australian Council of Local Governments. What are they, Rosie? Everyone asks. And I've basically been describing it as like, it's kind of all the councils all over Australia, of which there are 532. More than 540, maybe 542. There are a lot, so many more than I thought. They all get together in Canberra with their mayors and councillors and CEOs and hang out a bit, really. I mean, it's more than that. We got a lot of information. There were panels, there were workshops, but it was also just a great opportunity to meet so many other people from all around the country and get a real sense that there's so much more going on out there. And while many of our problems seem similar, there's also, you know, there's a lot more going on out there as well. And what it really gave me the sense of, I think, is that we are very lucky here, both to have the council that we have, where we all, you know, get along pretty well, let's be honest. And at the end of the day, while we might have a robust debate every now and then, we're all still speaking at the end of it and being pretty respectful to each other. But also that even though, you know, community council relationships can be rough sometimes, our community is very engaged in the right way. And even though they put a lot of pressure on us sometimes, I think it's because, you know, they want good things for our community just as we do. So it was great to be there and to have the conversations with ministers and people from other councils and be able to kind of, I've said this before, but show off a bit, honestly, because we are doing some amazing things. And I think we should all be very proud. And sometimes it's not until we step outside of our little microcosm here that we can really see the full potential of what we're achieving. It was very special. So I had an incredible experience. I did get to meet the Prime Minister. That was pretty cool. Got an excellent photo shaking Anthony Albanese's hand, which I will treasure forever. But more than that, it was the connections that I made and really being able to return home going, I have absolutely done my best to represent this community well and to get us the things that we need. So it was a really powerful experience for me. Sharing it with all of you is lovely. And I'm going to hand over to the CEO now. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth. And can I say, on behalf of all the staff as well, councillors, thank you to all of you for all of your work in the budget process and for adopting it tonight. I won't repeat all of the things that you said, but it's from our point of view, we really appreciate the way that you go about doing that practice too. We all know how hard it is for you. We have great appreciation for it anyway, and we really appreciate the way that you approach the budget and us in that process. So thank you all for adopting the budget. Absolutely, but also for how you went about that. And to the staff, as you said, Lisa's crew in Carol and Ross and the finance team. They drive that process and they carry that process for us all. But it is the whole organisation. So many people in Michael's directorate as well as my own who do work as well, and the rest of Lisa's directorate who do a lot to contribute to all of those matters that you think about. So I have my thanks to the whole organisation as well for all of the work to get that done and through tonight. Before I pick up on the trip to Canberra, Mayor, I did want to note one of the items that's on our list that I had the privilege of being involved in. I was in an online panel that was facilitated by a group called the International Local Government Information Unit. And what they were doing was facilitating a discussion, an international discussion about long-term sustainability options for local government. So there was people from England there, this comes out of Europe, this group, the people from England on the panel. There were a person from Scotland on the panel, a person from Ireland on the panel. There was a CEO from New South Wales local government, and then there was Mount Alexander on that panel. So it was just a very interesting discussion, and there was some really interesting things that happened in it. England is in a state of significant concern where its local government are at financially. 5 have gone to the wall in the last 5 years. The last one with a $2 billion deficit. That council is the same size as this council. $2 billion deficit going to the wall and more expected. That's England. Scotland's got significant financial sustainability challenges as well in most of their councils as well. New South Wales has been experiencing, opinions vary. New South Wales has been under rate capping for a very long time, and the CEO of the New South Wales Council spoke at length about the impact of that on their council, their ability to work. I got to speak about our challenges as well, but also something that I was pretty proud of now was being able to talk about the many different ways that we've looked at doing what we can to be as efficient as we can be, to be working on the right businesses and doing them the right ways as best we can, using external partners when we can. The effort that we make to find other sources of income for work and other ways of doing things, as well as some of those built-in efficiencies that preceding councils, for this one and for myself, put in place to make sure that the operating budgets are absolutely screwed down as tightly as they can be. So that was great to be able to put that across about the work that you and your preceding councils have done, as well as the previous executives and our executive. The one group that wasn't in that circumstance was Ireland. Councils in Ireland are, by all measures, doing very well financially. The difference, they're recognised in the Constitution of Ireland. Directly recognised in the Constitution of Ireland. It's a conversation that councils across Australia have been having for eons about what would be of assistance. And it was interesting to hear that the one country that is doing very well, is the one that has recognised local government in its constitution. Just leave that thought with you. True. It actually goes through to they have got guaranteed funding from the federal government at a level that is not seen in other countries. So I thought that was a pretty interesting discussion. I do want to pick up there on the trip as well, because it's been it was a great trip in many ways. And all I would say, councillors, is I don't think our mayor could have worked harder while she was there to get in the door of so many different groups. We've got many contacts and follow-ups as a result of the mayor just going and talking to people and saying, you need to know about us. I thought it was a fantastic effort, man.
I got a bit excited.
It was excellent, and plenty of work for us directors over the coming months as a result of that effort. But one of the standout thing, I think the most exciting thing that we got to share in was the national recognition of the Port Bunjil exhibition. It was the winner of the award for Indigenous recognition at the national level. So the Australian Local Government Association voted. There are about 11 different awards given. We got one of those from those more than 540 councils who could have put up their hand for a project there. We won. That's of course on the back of the one that we won 2 or 3 weeks ago for the Magaley Awards, which is the Reconciliation Victoria Award, which was granted for that same project. And just before I go back to that forum there, we did have a couple of other wins in recent times as well, where we won for the, can't see it very well, but it's the Stanley Park North Play Space, which was recognised under the Local Government LG Pro Awards, which is the Victorian Government awards for excellence, was for the Community Assets and Infrastructure Initiative for projects $5 million and under. So all 79 councils can apply for to be recognised in that. $5 million and under. This was a less than $1 million project that was deemed by our peers in Victoria to be the best project of the year. So an outstanding effort from that team as well. And at that same award, we were also recognised as a finalist for in the Outstanding Small Rural Council Initiative for the Village Square just out here, that project as well. So it came very close. We're actually in the last 2 candidates that got whittled away from about 8 finalists down to 3, then down to 2, and we were one of those 2 and almost got there. But so a great 2 or 3 weeks or so of awards for recognition of the work that our staff are doing, council. So been a very proud time. Yeah, just going back quickly as well, I did want to note that we had some great conversations, as you said in there, with some politicians, but also their advisors. And we did get the chance to speak with the advisor, the senior advisor on housing to Julie Collins, who's the Minister for Housing, Homelessness and Small Business. A fantastic meeting with a lot of great advice there about how we may be able to progress some of those initiatives that you know well. And certainly it was helpful for them to know well now too. So got a great new ally there, I think there. Quickly, just to finish off there, we also had a meeting with Senior Advisor to Dr. Anne Alley, who's the Minister for Early Childhood Education and Youth, and we were talking again about that challenge that we have in our community at the moment with getting adequate childcare services, sufficient childcare services into the community, and we got some great advice on that one as well. And finally, also had a chance to meet again with Minister Christy McBain, who's the Minister for Regional Development, Local Government and Territories. And I think it's fair to say now we're between your work and some of the other meetings that we've had in other times, they know who Mel Alexander is, and they're very appreciative and respectful of the work that we're doing, and they know what we need. I'll leave it at that.
It was worthwhile. And hopefully, yeah, I think we could not have done a better job of trying to represent what we're trying to achieve. Which, yeah, it's quite easy when you're very proud of it. Like I know that we are. So it's pretty great. One that I didn't mention, and I foreshadowed it earlier, and then I forgot. Excitingly, something big happened today at about 10 o'clock this morning. We launched our new website, which has been a dream of many for quite a long time. And I know that, you know, people did not like our previous website as much as they could have. And what our team has designed for them is a website that we hope puts the customer first, basically. It is, I don't know, it's easy. It's easy to use comparatively. Councillor Henderson and I were among some of the website testers. So we've had the joy of testing the website to see if we can break it, basically. And we're not able to yet, which is great. This has been after a 12-month process since we allocated a budget back in 21 and 22. And the website does look great. You'll notice when you go onto the homepage, the first thing you see, you cannot miss it, is a search bar. And we're really trying to promote to people that anything you need to find can be found in that search bar. Even if you spell the word wrong, it'll probably figure out what you're looking for. And this is a big improvement, I think, because one of the big complaints with our older website was that you couldn't find what you were looking for. I don't think that should be a problem anymore. It's very impressive, and obviously some people to thank here. Director Knight gave me a list, so I would make sure I got everyone right. So big thanks to Ed Butler, Anne-Marie Middlemast, Ben Brocklesby, Jamie Lee Martin, and then all of our other staff who helped, and all of the community who helped, and I don't know, maybe us a little bit as well for thinking it was a good idea, and everyone for really getting on board, because what we have now is hopefully a website that, as it continues to grow and improve, and it will, this is only the start, remember, progress, not perfection. This website will hopefully grow into a way that people can interact with council in a helpful, but totally non-hostile manner, where they can find what they need and it will just be there for them. And I think that's really what people are asking for. They want the information that so many of us have inside of our heads, and what we need to do is get it to them clearly and easily. And I really think that's what this website will achieve for us. So it's actually massive, huge thing. So congratulations again to everyone. You know, everyone go home and start typing things into the search bar and see what you can do. Yeah, it's really great. So now that's really it. I'll stop talking. We're up to item 11, which is notices of motion. There are nil. Up to 12, urgent special business. There is nil. 13, confidential items. There is nil. And 14, I will close the meeting at 8:42. Thank you, everyone.